Okay, just give me a few more seconds. Okay, well, welcome everyone. My name is Yandy Reynoso, and I am an advisor at Education USA in Mexico City. Before we start, you are welcome to send your questions to the username Q&A Marta Beltran if you are in Zoom. If you're watching us from Facebook, you can just type your questions in the chat box and we will review them at the end of the presentation. Our topic for today's session will be PreMed and other health programs in the United States. Our guest is Sarah from the University of Wisconsin, Eau Claire. She will be talking to us today. So before I give her the time, let's get started just with a brief introduction of what Education USA is. Education USA is a U.S. Department of State network of over 430 international student advising centers in more than 175 countries and territories. Our network promotes U.S. higher education to students around the world by offering accurate, comprehensive, and current information about the different opportunities available to you to study at accredited institutions in the U.S. Remember that we are your official source on U.S. higher education. All of our services and activities, such as workshops, webinars, personalized sessions, are free of charge. If you're interested in learning more about our services and activities, we recommend you to get in contact with your closest Education USA Advising Center by visiting our official website, educationusa.state.gov. So whether you plan to pursue a short-term or full degree program in the US, Education USA has the resources you need in your 5 steps to study in the US. You can learn more about these 5 steps, again, at our official website, educationusa.state.gov. So Sarah, thank you so much for being here, and the time is yours.
Perfect. So yeah, today we're going to be doing the presentation just about pre-med and other med topics, just because there's always so many questions and it's quite a confusing process and it's quite different than probably your home country and other countries around the world. If you're planning to study in Canada or the UK, right? It's going to be very different studying it in the United States. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. As we are going along in the process today. As she mentioned, if you do have any questions, you can definitely let us know. And one thing I will just kind of tell you up front, so my background is more in the pre-med side, okay? So I mostly work with undergraduate students in the pre-medical side of things. Now, this is like pre-med going on to med school, so I may not be able to answer all of your questions about med school, but really focusing more on the pre-med undergrad side as you transition into med school. So that's where this presentation will be about today. So just a little bit to get started. So a lot of times students say, oh, I'm going to study medicine. And in the United States, it means you started off, right? It's a graduate program. And what we mean by that is you have to complete and if you can just bump forward to the next slide quick, and I'll have you come back to this one, but just for the purpose of the presentation. Can you click forward to the next slide? Yeah, perfect, awesome, okay. So I'll just kind of talk a little bit on this first, and then I'll just have you go back to the other slide. But so it is a 4 years undergraduate program, and then from there in your like 3rd-ish 4th year, right, in between there, you're going to be taking what we call the MCAT, which is going to be our medical entrance examination. And so basically it's a test that you're going to take, similar to how if you want to get into grad school, you have to take what we call the GMAT. There's a lot of other qualifying exams as well too, but for medicine we call it the MCAT, or if you're planning to go to law school, right, it would be the LSAT. So there's different examinations you need to take to go on to get your professional degree. And so in this case, the 4 years of undergraduate, we have what we call in the US pre-med. Now, maybe you have some friends or cousins or family members, right, that say, oh, I'm studying pre-med, I'm studying pre-med. Well, actually, pre-med is not a major. I'm going to say that again. Pre-med is not a major. It's going to basically be a pre-professional program that you can study as part of your undergraduate degree. So what that means from there is you're still going to have to choose a major. So maybe some of you might think, okay, I'm going to study biology or neuroscience or psychology or biochem, right? A lot of times it's going to be those like more sciencey, med related majors that you think you need to go for. Actually, you can study English and be a pre-med major. You can study, let's say, if you want to go into something more artsy or something with a language, or if you want to study communications or business, right? All of those you can study as majors and still do pre-med. So basically what pre-med qualifies as is it's going to be making sure you hit all the requirements you need to apply to med school. And so whether it's going to be, let's say just for an example, let's say med school A requires you to have 2 biologies and 1 chemistry, okay? And med school B requires 2 chemistries and 1 biology, right? Because every medical school is going to have their own like admission requirements, right? And so it can be quite confusing because it's like, okay, how do I know what classes I need to take as part of pre-med in order to make sure I meet all the qualifications to apply to maybe my top 3 med schools, right, that I want to get into. So that's something you're going to want to keep in mind. So pre-med is basically making sure you're hitting all of those classes that you'll need to make sure you have all the requirements that you need in order to apply to med school. And as I mentioned, part of the MCAT is going to be that, taking the entrance exam, as well as submitting your application to med school. And the med school will be anywhere around 4 years-ish, right, give or take. You have 2 years residency, and then if you want to do anything after that, any specialization, that can be 2 to 5 years. So any of my math people in the house that are watching, right, you have 4 plus 4 plus 2, right, plus maybe 2 to 5. You're talking anywhere 10 to 15 years to become a medical doctor. We call an MD in the United States. Now, in some of the other countries, you can get it in 6 years, you can get it in 7 or 8, right? So the US does have a little bit of a lengthy process for you to get, qualified as a doctor, but definitely once you are, right, obviously worth it. You can help people, save people's lives, right? So that's really important. And we know now more than ever, right, the importance of like doctors, nurses, anything within the medical field. So that's going to be really important to keep in mind, because not only is it 10 years, 10 to 15 years of studying, it also means, right, you have to pay, right, 10 to 15 years of education, which can be sometimes a lot, especially for US students as well. It can be very expensive, let alone also for international students, okay? So we have on here, it can be expensive, right? That's just a little disclaimer. What people think of as expensive, right, is going to depend on, like, right, their own circumstance. What I consider expensive may not be what you consider expensive, may not be what another person considers expensive. So we just said it can be expensive depending on your own perspective and what you might think of that as. The other thing to keep in mind about med school in the US is it's super competitive, right? So we have over 4,000 institutions, like, in the US, right? Undergraduate, grad, everything like that, colleges. And in, like, of those 4,000, around-ish, I would say 140-ish, right, have medical programs. Okay, so if you reduce 4,000, right, down to 141, okay, we'll have a, like, program that you can go for to get your medical degree. Of that 141, right, programs, only around 60-ish, right, 60-ish institutions will accept international students. Okay, so that means, like, out of, right, all the different schools, universities, everything like that, about 60-ish or so, give or take some, will accept international students into their medical programs. Okay, so that's one thing that's really important to keep in mind, like, as you're thinking, okay, is it really medicine that I want? Or are there other healthcare fields that would really suit me, right? And maybe I haven't heard of them, maybe I didn't know about them, or I thought becoming a doctor was really the only option, right, in the med field. There are so many other excellent programs, that you'll be able to go through that can, you really have to figure out, what is my motivation? Why do I want to study medicine? What is it about medicine that I love? Is it the fact that you can help people? Well, if that's something that you're super interested in, right? Really, business people, right, help people all the time. If you think about nurses, right, um, physical trainers, anything like that, right? There any field you're going to go into, the main root, right, thing that is going to be like binding that together is the fact that we're helping humanity, right? We're using our education, we're using our knowledge to help solve some of the world's biggest problems, right? Even engineering, right? You're helping people. So if you think like, okay, what is it in the medical field? Why do I want to become a doctor? What is it that really makes me want to study medicine? If you're kind of struggling to figure out, I can't figure out why that is, right? You can ask yourself, I always say, ask yourself why 5 times, right? So you can say, why do I want to become a doctor? I want to become a doctor because I like to help people. Okay, but why? I like to help people because when I was younger, my grandma had cancer, and it was really hard for me to watch her go through that, and I want to find a cure for cancer. Okay, but why? Right? And ask yourself why 5 times, and that can really help you to get to the heart of like what it is inside of you, right? That is inspiring you to either apply for medicine, or if you find out, okay, it comes down to the fact that I want to help to solve a problem, right? Maybe it is research that you would go into, medical research, right, versus going to become a doctor. Maybe it's going into psychology, right, to help people with the mental side of things, rather than becoming a medical doctor, right? So there are different things that you can think about as to why, right, you want to study a particular thing. The other thing I'll just say, as you're going to and being applying for med schools, they take a look at 3 different GPAs. So you can see on the screen there, the basic PM GPA, which is going to be your biochem, physics, and math. Okay, non-science GPA and overall GPA. Okay, so that's just a little tidbit of information. This is kind of like a general guideline of what med schools will be looking for in terms of a profile. In terms of a pre-med profile, right, you will find a ton of the 4,000, right, US universities that will have pre-medicine as an option for you. So that's, I wouldn't say that's going to be as difficult to find as making sure that you can get into med school, right? And so in terms of pre-med profiles, a lot of US universities, it'll really vary, right, depending. If you've done any research looking at different institutions, some will require the SAT or ACT, some of them won't. Some will require an essay, some won't. Some will require letters of recommendation, some of them won't, right? So kind of around that same perspective, getting into pre-med isn't necessarily going to be anything crazy or anything like, I would say super, super unreachable. But the main thing is knowing, right? Or starting to think about, where do I want to go to med school? Because every med school, right, is going to have their own admission requirements. And so as you look at that, right, and I really encourage you as you're planning, like, okay, you're like, Sarah, you know what? I'm already trying to figure out pre-med. That's a lot to think about. And now you're asking me to think about med, right? Because if you think about, where is your end goal? If your end goal really is to go to med school, okay, you're going to need to know, what are their admission requirements, which will help affect, right, and impact what you're going to need to take in your undergraduate courses. And you can ask, right, the med schools, okay, what do you look for in a candidate? What type of volunteering experiences should I have? What type of shadowing opportunity should I have? Should I have a language, right? Should I have a major and a minor? What are those different things that can help me stand out as a candidate? Okay. And so basically, once you find all of that out from your med school, okay, and remember, there's around 60-ish of them, okay? So you'll be able to pick maybe 10 or so, kind of shortlisting. I know Education USA, right? We talk about shortlisting, making your list of universities that you're somewhat interested in, and asking the admission counselors, right? Okay, what do I need to do to get into med school? Then from there, you can have somewhat of a general idea that can help you to choose where you want to go for your undergrad. Find those institutions that prioritize undergraduate research, right? Find those institutions that have a pre-medicine club, right, or society where you can be involved in doing those volunteering things. Find a city, right, that allows you to do shadowing in the local hospitals, or whether you're going to be doing different volunteering opportunities. That's another great way to get involved that way. And then of course, on your US visa, right, we have what we call CPT and OPT. So CPT basically allows you to do an internship related to your study while you are like during your course, okay? OPT is going to be after the fact, right? After your studies are complete. So you can think about, okay, what internship would be really good for me, as I'm going along in my program. So there's a lot of great ways that can help you to get involved and to kind of build up that resume to apply to med school. Um, and so I guess that's pretty much the main bit there that I have in terms of like the application process and everything like that. Um, I don't know if you have any questions about that specifically right now. The other bit I will just say, as the tuition for med school, right, can be quite costly. So that's another thing to think about too, as you are applying. So if you look and take a look and see, okay, what med schools am I interested in? Okay, what is their tuition rate? Do they have scholarships? Okay, is that manageable? And then from there you can look right to see, okay, undergraduate, what can I manage, right? Because if you're talking 10 to 15 years of education, right, that's going to be a lot of money to put into your education. So definitely make sure you're keeping in mind, because what we want for you, any college, any university, what we want for you is to find the right fit, right? And what I mean by that is two things. One, it should be a good financial fit for you and your family, right? That's one factor. Secondly, it also should be right of like it should fit and feel like home. It should be a place that really pushes you outside of your comfort zone and challenges you, right, to become the best version of yourself. But at the same time, it should be somewhere that allows you to thrive, right, and that you feel comfortable. So there's that balance, right, of feeling comfortable, but then also pushing you outside of your comfort zone. Um, and so that's really the best advice that I can give as you are going along, is really not only trying to say, okay, where do I want to go for pre-med and then I'll figure the rest out later. No, you really need to make sure you understand the full process. And if you Google like med school timeline, right, kind of like, if you don't mind going to the next slide, please. Yep. So if you Google the right med school timeline, this was just a very simple one that I put together. But you can really look in depth and say, okay, what's included in those 4 undergraduate years? What's included in those 4 years of med school and those 2 years of residency? What other exams or boards, right, do I have to pass in order to be able to move on to become a medical doctor? And kind of when do those different things take place throughout those 10 years? Because that'll be really important. A lot of times we have students that are like, yep, I want to go for pre-med, which is awesome. And let's say they start in biology and they get into hardcore undergraduate research and they love it. They love the research more so than saying like, yep, I prefer to work in a lab than I would prefer to work with people, right? Because part of being a doctor is having good communication skills, right? Sometimes it can also mean having other languages. And so there's a lot of factors that go into being a doctor. Whereas some people that find out that, you know what, actually, I prefer to be in a lab working with test tubes, right? And trying to do more on the research side. And so it really is going to depend on where your heart is and what aspect of medicine that you prefer. Because there's a lot of ways, yeah, to be involved in medicine without necessarily having to become a medical doctor. Okay, next slide, please. Perfect. So here's just a few other pre-professional programs and other pre-professional health programs that you can think about, right? So as I mentioned before, really in pre-med, you can pretty much study any undergraduate major, which is a lot of times it's a myth. People say, oh, I have to study something in the sciences, otherwise I won't get in. Well, actually, a lot of people do study in the biology, biochem, psychology. Imagine if you stepped out of, that realm and you say, okay, I'm going to study communications, because I know, right? When I'm a doctor, communication is everything. I can have all the knowledge in the world, right? But if I can't communicate that with my patient, then what good is it, right? Everything comes down to communication. And so that might be a really great, either it's a major, or if you want to think about it as a minor, a really good option for you to think about pairing with, right? Whatever it is that you want to study. Or whether it is another foreign language, right? Maybe you want to study French, maybe it's Chinese, maybe it's Urdu, maybe it's Hindi, right? There's a lot of languages in the world that you can kind of pair with your education in order to be able to communicate, again, with different populations. The other bit there, you can see it says advisor and requirements. That's really, like I said, getting to the heart of knowing, okay, When I go to med school, what are my requirements, right? And you helping to use your academic advisor in your undergraduate program to make sure you're meeting all those qualifications you're planning early on. Some students will start in, let's say, yeah, a biology course or a biochem. Maybe they have a class and they fall in love with it and they're like, you know what, actually I would really love to go for pre-medicine, and they can add that later on. It's not something you necessarily have to designate, right? Right when you come into undergraduate, it can take time sometimes to discover what is that passion that you have, what is it that you want to study, you know. And from there, the good part about it is you have time. Undergraduate's 4 years, so you have time to figure out, oh, actually, you know what, I think I would really like to go the med school path. What do I need to do to get there? A lot of colleges and universities, like my own as well too, will have an advisor specifically for health programs. Okay, because we know, right, if you look at chiropractic, right, is the one where it's like with your back and your bones, right, making sure your spine is aligned and everything like that. Dentistry, you can see some of the other pre-professional programs there. You have optometry, occupational therapy. If you're more into pets and animals, right, veterinary, physician's assistant, right? So basically in the US, a physician assistant can do quite a lot of things that a doctor can do. So that's another really good one to look into. And the number of years of schooling will not be as much as well too. And there'll be a lot of other programs as well. Um, so that's something to think about. Physical therapy, if you know someone that's ever been injured and how they had to rehabilitate, right? Whether it's they broke their leg and they have to go and, be able to learn how to walk again. Physical therapy is a great way to be able to help people. Pharmacy. So there's a lot of other pre-professional programs that you can look into and think about, right? Like, what is it in the medical field that I love? And are there other areas of medicine that I could be very happy doing? And so that's one thing just to keep in mind as you are planning. And, many universities, students will come in undecided. They know, okay, I want to study something in science. I love biology, right? I want to go into the med field. I'm not quite sure yet. Then when you get on campus, again, your pre-professional health advisor, they're going to be the ones that can help you to say, okay, in this program, this is really what you'll be learning about. In dentistry, right? How is dentistry different than, let's say, veterinary science, right? It's quite different working on someone's teeth versus working with animals, right? And so it really is, sometimes it can take time to discover those passions that you have and which program you want to go into. But I promise you, as you go along in the courses in your undergraduate program, it'll help you to discover that passion that you have and really help you to kind of sort out which area you're most interested in. The other extracurricular activities we always recommend is shadowing in your home country, even before you, right, come to the US or plan to come to the US for your studies. Do some job shadowing. Go see what it's like to be a chiropractor for a day. Go sit with a dentist or go interview them and ask, right? What is it like? Why do you love your job? What is it that you love about it? And really get to understand the humanity behind a major. Because a lot of times, right, students can say, oh, I want to study this, maybe because it sounds good, right? Or maybe their parents want them to study it, or maybe it's something they've always dreamed of studying. But really, if you can add the humanity to the name of the major, right? If you say, oh, I know a dentist and she really loves doing her job because XYZ, right? She really loves doing her job because, she's really passionate about it. It's something she's always wanted to do. And really listen to their story. There's a lot of advice, right? You can get simply by, going and asking people. Hi, do you have 5 minutes to sit down and talk to me about your story and your journey through dentistry school? What was it like? What was the hardest part? What was the best part? What advice do you have for me as I'm trying to decide if it's a good fit for me and for my life, right? And so those are going to be some really good questions that you can go in and ask as you're going along. And so these are just a few other ones to keep in mind, but I would just say, get on Google and see, what are pre-professional health programs? What are different health occupations that exist out there for me? Because you know what? The really cool thing about it is each major will have a different path, right? A different educational path. And some may be more suitable for you and your family, for your life, for your passion, right? Financially wise, all of those factors, like I said, universities want you to find the best fit for you. And there's a lot of factors that go into finding that right fit, right? university program, and then going on to grad school. And so as you're thinking about these things, really to see all the options that exist out there and not just to shield, right? A lot of times people say, oh, I want to study medicine, and that's all they can see. But when you take off the blinders, right, and you can see all the medical programs that are available there for you to study, it really can allow you to open your mind, right, and your heart to something that maybe you didn't know existed, but was truly what you've wanted to study all along. So I would just say definitely keep an open mind as you are going along in this process to try and figure out what is the best program for you and which one you would be most interested in. Can we go to the next slide, please? Perfect. Awesome. So these are just a few other medical majors. And so the really cool thing about this um, is not all these programs require you to go on to, right, like grad school or even to complete a 4-year degree. Some of these programs, right, are going to be 2-year programs at a community college or a technical college. And so really that really opens up, right, the possibilities for everyone to be able to study something within the medical field as you are going along and trying to figure out what you want to study. For example, if you think of therapeutic massage, right? Massage therapy. That in the United States is a 1-year program. Can you imagine a 1-year program, right? If you look at EMT paramedic, again, it can be anywhere 1 to 2 years, depending what you're doing. Nutrition can be 1 to 2 years in the US. Okay, so those are some of the programs you can look for if you want to study at a community or a technical college, right? Health and wellness management. There's going to be a lot of also healthcare business programs. I know we have one of those, which is really cool. If you have a passion for business and a passion for healthcare, imagine like being able to marry those two into one program, right? Into one degree. And really what you can do with it from there is maybe you really like to be in the hospital setting. You always feel happy, right? Being able to help people within a medical field environment. But maybe you're more on the accounting side of that, or maybe you want to help to manage, right? And think about more the business side. If you think of a hospital, right? What do they need to run? They're going to need doctors, they're going to need nurses, right? They also need people doing their marketing. They need people doing their, right, your computer science people, right? They're going to need IT people. They're going to need CRM, or how are they keeping track of all of their client data? How are they keeping that safe, right? They're going to need cybersecurity people. They're going to need accountants. They're going to need people doing payroll and billing and invoices, right? So if you think of a hospital, it's really like it's an organization of its own, right? It's kind of like its own little city where you have so many different careers within the same roof, right? Under the same building, but all of them are contributing to one common goal. And all of them, right, are working within the healthcare field. And so that's another really cool program is if you are passionate about business and you're like, you know what, I really like healthcare as well. That's a great option, something for you to look forward to going into. And you can see here, there's a lot of other options, right? I'm sure you all growing up, right? Maybe you had PE class, physical education, right? Where not necessarily maybe during recess, but you would go out and you would have gym class. And in the gym, right, you had a physical education teacher. Maybe you're passionate about teaching people about health, nutrition, wellness, and you love working with kids, right? No one would ever think, oh, that's a medical field. What? But actually, if you think about it, all the health and wellness and well-being of the future generations in Mexico, right, are going to be dependent on you as a teacher, right? As you share and you care, you teach them about the importance of health, about the importance of nutrition, about the importance of exercise, right? So becoming a teacher even falls under that. So you can see here, there's so many different opportunities and options and different things that you can go into that all relate to the medical field. We also have sonography. So if you think of when a woman becomes pregnant, right, and you're doing the ultrasounds on the stomach, trying to see the baby inside, right, that's going to be another 2-year program in the US. If you think about nursing, right, nursing can be a 2-year program. It can be a 4-year program. It can be all the way to grad school and a doctorate of nursing, right? So your nursing path can really extend throughout the time. But you can start with 2 years. You know, that's the thing that's really important to keep in mind. There are a lot of opportunities for you to start in the healthcare field, whether it's a 2-year, a 4-year, or going on to grad school, right? Athletic training, that one mostly will require a 4-year, and then a master's. So that one will be around about, I would say, 6-ish years, give or take. Exercise and sports science as well too. Health information systems management. Maybe you're super passionate about, right, computers, data science, numbers, statistics, right? Health information systems management really are going to be the gatekeepers, right, of all the data located, whether it's patient data, whether it's research data, all within the medical field. Okay, so these are just a few other opportunities and options, and really things for you to think about as you are going along. Try to think of those other medical majors that you might be interested in studying. And the really cool thing about it is, once you start and you get to discover what classes you really love, is it research that you're passionate about? Is it really working with people, right? Maybe it's more the rehab side of things, like teaching them how to walk again, different things like that. Is it more of the IT side of things, like being able to make sure people's information is secure? And that they're not infringing on any, right, different data rules and everything like that of how we have to keep information. Maybe it's more the business side. Maybe you love numbers, but again, you love to work in the healthcare field. There are so many different ways, right, for you to be involved in medical majors. And so that's something just to really take a minute and to take a step back. I always tell my students, the very first thing you can do when you're trying to decide what you want to study is brainstorming, right? Is really getting to know yourself, getting to know at the heart of why it is you want to study what you want to study. And a lot of times people say, yep, I want to study this. And they get to campus and they start studying and they're like, you know what, this is not for me. And that's really the importance of extracurricular activities, volunteering, right? Service learning, because that can really give you a practical aspect of that specific major. So sometimes maybe you have people that go into teaching and they're like, yeah, I want to be a teacher. And they get in the classroom and they're like, no way, this is not for me, not happening, right? They like run out the door the other way. And so it really is good to have the practical experience and to ask people around you, ask your family members, right? Ask people in your community, ask professionals in your community, ask the Education USA representatives, right? For different people that you can talk to, right, about that specific major, about that specific job, because they're really going to be the best people who have that practical knowledge, right? Imagine being able to sit down with someone who's been a doctor for 10, 20 years. What would they tell you, right? I was an exchange student to Thailand when I was in high school, and I lived with families of doctors, right? And all of them had different stories, different things to tell me. Work-life balance is another thing, right, to keep in mind. So there's a lot of factors apart from, oh, I am a XYZ job title, right? Insert job title here. There's a lot more to it than just having a job title, right? It actually means you have to do that work. You have to live it every day. And hopefully you find something that you're truly passionate about. That's really what we all want for you. Because when you're passionate about it, right, you can use that. You can use that knowledge, you can use that passion to help make the world a better place. Just 1 second, I need to get some water. Okay, I think we can go to the next slide. All right, so the next few other things I would just say to keep in mind, as you are going along, accreditation can go a long way, especially as you are an international student, okay? So that's gonna be really important to keep in mind, because if you go along, right, and you say, oh, yep, I wanna study this in the US, and you get certified, right? The main thing is, how are you gonna be able to use that back home? Okay, and all international students coming from all different countries around the world will all have their own different criteria and guidelines that they need to meet in order to work back in their home country. Okay, so that's going to be really important to keep in mind as you are going along. Again, I think we pretty much touched on the rest of these things. I think we're doing pretty okay for time. I'm just going to take a 1 minute here just like half a minute, 1 minute break. And then I am going to get all my stuff pulled up on the screen to talk about my university and the different programs that we offer for you. And I'll talk about that for maybe 5-6 minutes. And then we'll go ahead and start with all the Q&A. Okay, so it'll be just a minute here while I get everything pulled up.
Great, thank you, Sarah. While we wait for her, just remember to keep sending your questions to the username Q&A Marta Beltran, and we will review them at the end. If you join us a little bit later after the introduction, just remember that Education USA and all of our services and activities, such as workshops, webinars, personalized sessions, are free of charge. If you're interested in learning more about our services and our different activities, we recommend you to get in contact with your closest Education USA Advising Center by visiting our official website, educationusa.state.gov. Our network promotes U.S. higher education to students around the world by offering accurate, comprehensive, and current information about the different opportunities available to you to study at accredited institutions in the U.S. Remember that we are your official source on U.S. higher education. We will be having more activities that are related to this topic. So make sure that you follow us in social media so you can register and learn more about these activities. We usually also promote activities of other Education USA advising centers, not only Mexico City, but from a region and other different parts of Mexico. So I would suggest you to follow us in social media. We have presence, our advising center, in pretty much every social media platform. We are on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and that's it. So make sure to follow us and make sure to so you know learn more about our activities. Okay. Sarah, are you ready? Okay.
Yes, sorry. I was just trying to get unmuted here. Yep, I should be all set. I'm just getting this one. Perfect. Okay, am I good to share my screen?
Yes, you can do that.
Okay. Okay, awesome, perfect. So yeah, as she mentioned, I am from the University of Wisconsin, Eau Claire, and we are primarily going to be an undergraduate research institution. So we really focus on the undergraduate side of things. So overall, I would say we have about 10,700 students, 10,000 of which are undergrad. Okay, so we really heavily focus on the undergraduate side of things. And we are located in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. So sometimes students will ask me, Sarah, is Wisconsin a country? I'm like, no, it's okay. It's one of our 50 states, don't worry. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of point it out here. So that way y'all can see where we're located. So you can see Chicago's right here. So we are located in the northern part, and this is the state of Wisconsin in the city of Eau Claire. So I just wanted to show you that quick. And I'm just going to show a quick video, if you don't mind. And I think I should be able to use the share sound. Okay, let me know if you cannot hear the video, okay? Can you hear it okay?
People talk a lot about happiness. It's something everybody looks for. It can come from not only how we spend our time, but also where we spend it. And the right community can make all the difference. Most places have at least some good, but some places have a lot of good. There are the basics, a sense of safety and comfort, a job you're good at, a nice home you can afford. But when you're ready and in the right place, happiness can come from all around you. It comes from the changing seasons and wide open spaces. It comes from the vibe in a community that likes to do things, to experience, to learn, and grow. It can come from the energy of a place working together every day to build itself into something more. A place that fosters connections, helps create new friendships, and that values individuality. Happiness comes in a place where we can just as easily fill up our days and lives as we can empty them, right out. Creating time for yourself and for the people you love. Honestly, here in this place, we don't have to think much about these things. We just have them.
Yay, awesome. So that's just a little bit about Eau Claire, just so y'all can see it. So we really are a beautiful blend of nature and the city itself. And so this is a quick picture of the university. So super beautiful. We have the river running right through it. So if you're kind of looking for that vibe, right? And again, we say finding the right fit means finding a place that really you can feel comfortable and it feels like home. And I know coming from Mexico City, I've been there myself. I absolutely loved it there. One of my roommates, she was from Mexico City. So I've spent quite a bit of time there and love it there. But I do know it's quite busy, right? Hopping and popping, lots going on. So Eau Claire might be a little bit more of a relaxed pace. We have roughly around 67,000 people. So you might be like, whoa, Sarah, that's a very small city. In Wisconsin, that's what we consider like medium-sized city. So, but if you're a nature lover, and if you love coffee shops, cafes, music, more of that kind of a vibe and scene, it's a really beautiful place. So just a little bit here for international students quick. So you can see our tuition is roughly going to be around $17,500. Housing, meals, health insurance for a total of around $27,500 per year. And we also offer international student scholarships ranging $2,000 to $6,000 guaranteed every year you study with us. And then depending, right, what major you decide to study, of course, there'll be other scholarships once you become a student with us as well too. So with the international student scholarship, tuition will become anywhere around 20-ish, right? $20,500 to $25,000 per year. And that includes, right, tuitions, housing, meals, and health insurance. We do not require, if you go onto our page here, admissions, right? You can learn how to apply. We do not require SAT, ACT for admissions. We still are accepting applications for fall. So if any of you are interested, definitely feel free to take a look online. But yeah, just the online app, we do have a $25 application fee. We will need some form of English proficiency, TOEFL, IELTS, financial verification, certified bank statement, and transcripts, and passport copy. So nothing too crazy or out of the ordinary, but that'll really be our application process. Okay. And I know we are here for pre-med, right, and other med programs. So if you are interested, you can take a look. So we have the Institute for Health Sciences, something that we really focus on. And as I mentioned, we're primarily an undergraduate institution. So we really heavily focus on the undergraduate research as well. So that's something that we really prioritize, especially within the different health programs that we offer. At UW Eau Claire, we have nursing, we have all the pre-professional health programs, quite a few different options. We'll have pre-med as well too. And one thing that we have that's really cool is we actually have, I don't know if y'all have heard of the Mayo Health System, but it's one of the most famous healthcare systems in the world, doing all the research and everything like that. And we're quite fortunate. We're one of 2 US universities that have the undergraduate research partnership with them. So our students are researching alongside their physicians, right? Alongside their nurses, alongside their researchers. And in our classes, we're helping them to do research. So if you're passionate about research and especially getting to have those opportunities in your first, second, third, and fourth year with us on campus, definitely take a look at the Mayo Health System partnership, because that'll be something that's really cool for you to just kind of learn more about, but then also to learn about the opportunities that you'll have. And lastly, I know I just have 1 more minute here before we get to Q&A. I am just going to show you this quick video. It's one of our alumni who wanted to study, came in studying pre-med, and then I'll let you hear his story quick.
I think that it's a really common perception that if you're good at science, you're good at math, and you want to help people, that, you know, like being a physician or being a PA or a nurse, that's really the only option. And that's what I thought when I entered school, so naturally I set my sights on medical school. About 3 years into college, I realized that it wasn't really right for me, and I really felt a bit lost for a while because I thought that if that path wasn't where I was going to end up, then the last 3 years of my life were kind of useless. But I was really happy to find out that there are a ton of options in the science field, in food processing, there's just quality assurance, there's microbiology in every single industry. And I was super happy and lucky to find this job here at Regen, where I'm still involved in the science and I still feel like I'm contributing to helping patients. Our main goal is to come up with treatments or cellular therapies for these babies with congenital heart defects. When I started here, all of my work seemed so far away from the patient, so it's hard to really imagine that there's a family, there's a baby at the end of all the work. When I fly to the surgeries and see this baby 6 months, 8 months old on the operating table, you know, it just makes it a lot more real. So each one of these can potentially hold like 500,000 cardiomyocytes. You can see those little tiny aggregates. The whole university really pushes students to just think critically, and I feel like I really left there prepared and ready to enter the workforce. Dr. Beiser was my biotechnology professor, and I remember him talking about induced pluripotent stem cells, and it kind of seemed like this Star Trek far off thing that I would never really experience in real life. And then, to my surprise, I got this opportunity to come to Regen Theranostics, where we're working with induced pluripotent stem cells every day. I think that the world is sort of bigger than what we perceive it when we're in college, and there's so many more opportunities, different types of opportunities in different places. You know, eventually you'll find where you're meant to be, even if it's not the exact path that you thought you'd follow when you entered college.
Yay, awesome. So that's pretty much what I had for you all about my university, University of Wisconsin, Eau Claire, and also the pre-med and other health majors. So I guess we'll open it up now for questions. So feel free to go ahead and put them in the chat or however we're managing the questions.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Sara. This is Marta Beltran. Good afternoon, Sara, and good afternoon, all the attendees. I am advisor in Mexico City as well. And I will read, we have some questions, very, very valuable and great information, Sara. Well, before moving to the questions of our audience, I want to tell you that we are recording this session, and you will get that recording as a resource for your use. So don't worry about that. You will have that as a resource if you want to check it again. The first question, Sara, is I am interested in studying biomedicine. Should I, or do I have to study pre-med?
That's a really good question. So basically pre-med is meant to be if you want to go on to med school, okay, to become like a medical doctor. So if you want to study the bio, right, subject, it does not mean you have to, especially at the undergraduate level, does not mean you have to pair it with pre-med. Pre-med is basically only going to be for those men who want to go on to medical school. So if you're like, I'm not quite sure, I'm still deciding, I would say you have time, don't worry about it. In the first year, second year, you're more than able to add that on and to try and make sure you hit all the qualifications that you'll need to for pre-med. So not necessarily, I would say it really depends on you and what your end goal is. What is your end career? What's your dream? And that'll determine if you'll need pre-med or not.
Perfect. Another question is, while doing my research, I saw that there are different kinds of bachelors. Can you explain the difference between BA and BS, please?
Yeah, awesome. Very good research. That's a really great question. So BA will stand for Bachelor of Arts, and BS will stand for Bachelor of Science. Okay, and so basically the arts and the science will have different amounts of, right, as it would sound like, more of like those liberal art courses or more of those science courses included in that degree. So maybe in arts might have you take a language, let's say, maybe it'll have you take a couple language classes, whereas the science might have you take a few more chemistries or biologies, right? And so really, when you are applying to med schools, I wouldn't say it would make that much of a difference in the fact of whether you have the BS or BA, but it will kind of factor into, right, what major you're studying. That'll also be important. So a lot of the biology, biochem, molecular biology, regular chemistry, your neuroscience, a lot of those will be Bachelor of Sciences, mainly because they're stemmed from so much science, right? Whereas some of the other courses may be Bachelor of Arts. So yeah, definitely something to keep in mind when you are planning to look at. And basically the main differences will be the courses, more of those like general education courses, some will be more geared towards science and some will be more geared towards the arts. Okay, I hope that helps to answer, yeah, your question.
Perfect. And then continue with the question. It says, I would also like to know what you mean by major and minor.
Yeah, awesome. So yes, basically if you want to think of it in like just kind of general-ish terms, to put it kind of like simply, a minor is going to be around about half of a major. So let's say if you say, okay, I'm going to study, let's just go with biochem. Okay, I want to study biochem and get my bachelor degree in that. That'll be 4 years, right? Bachelor degree, a certain amount of credits that you'll need to graduate. Normally, give or take, it's around 120-ish credits, okay? Maybe a minor would be around 60 credits. It depends, right? Depending what course and everything like that. And there may be some overlap. Maybe if you wanted to minor in photography versus if you wanted to minor in something else. It really kind of depends. What is that overlap with your major? But in the US, it's not uncommon to have students doing a double major, which means, whoa, you're studying 2 degrees at the same time? Does that mean it takes 8 years to study? No. You can actually, we have students finish 2 degrees within 4 years, sometimes less than 4 years, which sounds crazy. But it's really going to depend on what your majors are, if there's overlap between the courses. Sometimes to get a minor, it means literally only taking like 5 more classes and you can get, right, something that's considered like another area of emphasis. So in the US, we'll have what we call certificates. We have associate degrees, which are going to be 2-year courses. You have bachelor, which is going to be your 4-year program. And then you have minors, right, which are like little areas of emphasis that you can tag on to your main degree.
Perfect. And now another question about your university. Does the University of Wisconsin accept international students for their medical programs?
Oh, good question. So at my university, University of Wisconsin, Eau Claire, we do not have a med school. Okay, so we have the pre-med courses. And so a lot of students will transfer to different universities all throughout the US, right? Because we mentioned there's around 140-ish that are for like domestic, right, for US people. And then you have about 60-ish that will include for international students. So I would say really the main thing is going to be you have to check specifically with the med school that you want to get into. Or if you just click on Google, what are the medical schools in the US that accept international students? That'll give you the full list, and it can list by state as well too, if you're interested in a particular location or area. But yeah, so my university, we have the pre-med option, which will be for your bachelor's portion of the program.
Sarah, and in that case, Wisconsin, the university is also having or providing a list of the universities you are transferring these students to?
Yeah. So our we have the health like pre-program health advisor, and so they're really going to be your advisor to help make sure you know about the different options for transfer. Where do you want to apply to med school? Getting prepared for the MCAT examination. So really have someone that's there to help you all throughout this whole process, and they'll be able to definitely make sure online as well too. You'll be able to find it, but really the list of the main places people transfer, but then again really making sure that does include the international students will be important for sure.
Perfect. And for instance, these advisors are actually working with the international students already studying at your university, but they are also offering this advice to people that is interested.
Sure. So yeah, definitely. We have for prospective students, and also come the fall time, we actually have admission presentations specifically for health sciences. So if you're interested in that, if you're not planning to come for fall, definitely if you want to, you can just sign up for the more contact on our webpage. So that way you can stay in the loop of different programs, majors that we're offering the different presentations, so you can learn more about them. But yeah, so if you just emailed them and you're like, hey, I just want to learn more about kind of the med process and everything like that, where can I transfer to when I'm done as an international student? They're always more than happy to answer those questions on the front end for prospective students as well too.
Super. Another question. What can you tell us about universities not requiring SATs or ACT scores for this year?
Yeah, so a lot of, right, you are correct. This year is the main words there, right? So some universities did forgo, did not require the SAT or ACT only because of the COVID situation, right? My university, for example, we do not require it anytime for international students. So I wouldn't really say it's a difference in university. It's just going to be a difference in admission process, right? So some might require essays, some might require letters of recommendation, some might require SAT, ACT. Some will take Duolingo, for example, versus TOEFL and IELTS. So you've got a lot of different factors, which sometimes can be very overwhelming, right? As an international student, because every admission process is different. So you're doing, I would say, the best thing you can do. One is being connected with Education USA. They're an amazing resource for you. The next best thing, right, that you can also do is really getting in touch with the universities, admission counselors that you are interested in, because we can be able to tell you here, yep, here's all the different things that we need for our university. And if you talk to the next university, they'll let you know all the things that you need. Paper and pen, writing it down, make a list, make a note of which universities require what things for admissions, and that'll help to keep you straight and sorted in terms of your applications.
Perfect. We are running out of time. Is it okay to make some more of the questions that we have from the audience?
Yep. Yeah, I'm here all night.
Thank you. So another one. Should we look then for med school before choosing our major?
Yeah, I would say that's a really good question. So if you're going to med school, right, that's going to really mean you're going to most likely going on to become a doctor, going into the research side. So I wouldn't necessarily say you have to nail down and say, yeah, this is where I'm going to med school. Like there's no other else I'd rather go, because like I said, again, sometimes when you're so tunneled and you're not seeing anything else, you miss all the opportunities in front of you. But what it can be helpful for is you can take a look and you can get informed, right? You're educating yourself on what does it mean to go to med school? What are their admission requirements? What are they looking for? Then what do I need to complete in my undergraduate to make sure that I have a successful application to get into med school? And so not necessarily that you have to choose one right up front, but really kind of having your short list. I know the Education USA offices, right, they'll work with you to create your short list. Where do I want to go? Where would make the most sense for me? And if you have a list of, like, let's say 9, 10 universities, you can email them and ask and say, okay, what are your admission requirements for med school? What are your requirements? What do I need to submit? What do you look for in an applicant? And sometimes having that information can really help to inform your decision of where you want to study for your undergraduate degree, right? So if they say undergraduate research is important, if they say volunteering is important, if they say being able to shadow, right, different places is important, we'll find a university, an undergraduate university, that can support you, right, for all of those initiatives. So that way you can make sure you're setting yourself up for success to get to that end goal that you're desiring.
Perfect. And I know that you already mentioned about the meaning of pre-med, but just to highlight it, here is another statement. I didn't understand very well the meaning of pre-med.
Okay. So yeah, I know it's a really confusing thing to try and explain. So basically, okay, this is the best way I'm gonna try. Okay, so stay with me. If you think of like French fries and ketchup, right? Okay, your French fries, your main thing, and ketchup is like a dipping sauce, right? It's like an extra thing. It's a side item, that you can eat, right? You can eat French fries without ketchup, right? So if I want to study biology and I'm not quite sure if I want to go to med school or not, right? Pre-med is like a side item. Biology is going to be your French fries. That's the main thing you're studying, right? But if I know, okay, I want to go to med school, I still have to choose a major, which is going to be your French fries, right? Which could be biology. But at the same time, I'm going to have my side of ketchup, which is really going to help to make the flavor, right, of your French fries, maybe if you're a ketchup person, more delicious, right? It's a side item that can help to support the main item, right? So really your pre-med is going to be like a little side dish. That's going to make sure, okay, I'm hitting all the requirements I need to go to med school. It's not a major. It's not going to be, when you graduate from University of Wisconsin, Eau Claire, it's not going to say you're graduating in pre-med. Okay, it's not going to say that. It's going to say you're graduating in biology. You're graduating in neuroscience, right? You're getting your degree in XYZ major. But knowing that you did the pre-med course, which is allowing you to make sure that you're hitting all those requirements, all those courses, right? It's going to also help to make sure you get the MCAT prep. It's going to make sure that you're getting all of the support that you need in order to make sure by the time you get to your 4th year and you're applying to medical schools, that you are ready, that you have everything that you need to apply.
Oh, that's great.
Kind of a different way, no, to explain it, yeah.
And with that, you have answered the why it's important to consider of taking the pre-med before taking medicine career. So that's answering that. So I continue with the next one. What major do you recommend to take?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would definitely say you can go ahead and ask those med schools, right? And I would ask them, right? What major should I take? What should I be taking? For me, on our side, we support you to take whatever it is that you're passionate about, whatever that you think will help to make a successful application. And right, when you have at our university, right, for example, you have 80 majors to choose from. Right. And so it's like, how am I supposed to choose one major? And especially, right, people have the mindset that, oh, for pre-med, you have to choose a science major. And that's not true, right? So then it means, oh, wow, I really do have 80 options to choose from. So I would say find something you're passionate about, find something that you love. Because anytime you're going to submit an application, right, to the med school, you're going to have to write about it. You're going to have your supervisors or someone write, like letters of recommendation. You're going to have letters of support, right? Showing that, oh yeah, you did the volunteering in that. So if you love what you're doing, those things will come naturally. It'll come easily, organically, right? If it's something that you're forced and you're not happy with, and you're like, I'm going to be a doctor my whole life and I don't want to do it, what? Like, that's going to be a lot more difficult for you to be passionate about, right? So find something that you love. The other thing, as I mentioned with minors, right? Anywhere 15 to 30 credits, it can take in order to add on. Like I said, sometimes it can be 1 to 5 classes that you might need. It's not going to take that long. You can add on. So for example, let's say if you're going to study biology, but you love photography, you love pottery, you love music, you love languages, you love communication, you want to study English, right? You have so many other opportunities. And I would say that's the beauty of liberal arts, being able to study the arts and the sciences in that holistic version of education. So I would say find something that you love, but knowing your education truly, it's like a buffet, right? You can mix and match and put what you want on your plate. Again, a food reference, no? But who doesn't love buffets? But really, that's the beauty. You can do majors, double majors, minors, certificates. You have so many options available for you to make your education what you want it to be. And I always say, don't sacrifice your passions, right? Don't sacrifice your passions. Your university that you choose should be able to encompass everything that you want it to be. So don't sacrifice until you find the university that is all of that for you.
Perfect.
Very
nice advice.
Let's do one more question briefly in 90 seconds, so we can just wrap up our session for today.
We have a lot of questions actually, but okay.
Yeah, maybe we can send those to Sarah through email, and we can just follow up through Mexico City at educationusa.org.
Perfect. So this information will actually go for students with double citizenship. So if they live in Mexico, they are also US citizens. Do they pay international tuition fee? Do they apply as international students or as US citizen?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say the majority of universities, they will be considered domestic. So as long as you have US citizenship, that will take over, right? The international side, the Mexican citizenship. And so yes, if you are a US citizen, you will most likely have a totally different process, right? You're going to have different scholarships available to you, different deadlines, right, than international students will have. You're going to have different application requirements, like, for example, maybe domestic students need to submit ACT, SAT, but international students do not. Maybe the deadline for domestic is going to be December 1, whereas international it's June 1, right? So it's going to be really important for you, if you are a dual citizen, to make sure that you're looking for the US requirements, the deadlines and the application process and the scholarships, because most likely all of it will be completely different than an international student. But the good news is your tuition will be cheaper, yay. And also there may be other scholarships available to you that otherwise the international students may not necessarily be eligible for. So definitely make sure you're looking at the right information, but that's an excellent question. Really, really good question.
Perfect. So then this is the end of the questions and answer session here. We have a lot of questions.
Great, thank you. Well, thanks everyone for attending today. Remember that this session has been recorded. We will be in contact with you in the next couple of days to share the recording of this session. As you can see on screen, make sure to follow us in social media so you can also learn more about our different activities and online events. Sarah, is there an email where our audience can contact your office or your institution? If they didn't get their question answered, maybe they can just reach out to you. Perfect.
Yeah, awesome. I'll just put my WhatsApp there, and also I will give my email. So feel free to call, message, email as well too.
Perfect. I am just typing it. Okay, yeah, it's already on the chat. Perfect. We will make sure also to share this contact information when we send the recording of this session. So you have this important information in hand. If you, and as I said, if you didn't get your question answered, you can reach out to Sarah and she will be able to answer your questions. Or if you have any other questions regarding our services, you can reach us out at mexicocity@educationusa.org. Thank you so much, Sarah, for your presentation and your time. This was great. And everyone, thank you. And we hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.